How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Chav Ches, Daf Koyach of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends, oh, that's funny. It's called Daf Chav Ches, which is Koyach, strength, and it's called Chezkas Abatam, Chazak, is strong. Koyach, Chazak. All right. What is this? All right. Fine. Well, okay, we start Chezkas Abatim. It's gewaldig. I'm not far into the parak at all. The truth is, here's the deal. Today's going to be a shtickle cliffhanger because normally I think, okay, it's Friday afternoon, right before Shabbos, which means that this is the last, this is Daf Chav Ches, I haven't actually learned Daf Chav Tes yet. So normally I think I would have tried to do about half of Chav Tes Mad Aleph, but it's going to be a shtickle cliffhanger. We're going to kind of stop. Kind of in the middle of the sugya, but not, somewhere where you can, I found a place to stop, but it's not where I normally would have liked to stop. What's also very interesting is that in Perek Chezkas Abatim, tomorrow's Daf Chav Tes, no more Rashi. No more Rashi for the rest of the Masechta. The rest of the Masechta, it is his grandson, the Rashbam, who tends to be much more verbose than Rashi is. What Rashi says in a few words, the Rashbam says in a few lines, which means that the pages end up being smaller pages. We're just reading the Gemaras and explaining the Gemaras. So I'm very curious to see what effect that is going to have, and sort of the difficulty and even the length of the individual dafs and Babylon Talmud episodes. It's possible that for the next 5 months, which is how much time is left in BavaBasra, it's possible that the dafs are going to be relatively short, which would be very nice. So anyways, let's jump in. We're going to start Daf Chav Ches, Amud Aleph at the Mishnah, new parak. Here we go. Chezkas Abatim. And I'll tell you, I'm kind of excited for this parak because the concept of chazaka comes up all over the show. Come on, chazaka. We've heard of chazakas for ages and ages and ages, but I think that this is really going to be where we're really going to delve into what's a chazaka and how does it work, why does it work. Even today we're going to start jumping into this concept of chazaka. So I'm kind of excited. It feels so yesodistic. I learned Chezkas Abatim ages and ages ago with my chavrusa, Reb Adam Reich. Maybe some of the chevra knows Adam Reich. And so we learned together Chezkas Abatim. I don't know how far we got. We're probably going to get further in the next week than we got the whole year. But anyways, Chezkas Abatim, so a chazaka on a house. Okay? A chazaka on a house. V'aboris, and a pit, v'asichin, and a ditch, v'amayris, and a vault. I don't know what a vault is. I'm just saying whatever I read in the art school. They say it's a vault, so I say a vault. V'ashovchis and dovkos v'amechatzos and bathhouses, I guess. Uveis habadin, I assume it's talking about an olive press. Uveis hashlochin, and uveis hashlochin is a field that receives irrigation. It doesn't rely solely on rain. It relies on irrigation. Now, because of that, though, there's irrigation 365 days a year, right? A field that relies on rain. So there's rain in the rainy season. There's no rain in the non-rainy season. So let's say, I don't know, maybe wheat or something. So if you rely just on the rain, so I guess in the rainy season the wheat grows, and then you harvest it, and then you wait till the next season to plant it. But I guess a field that relies on irrigation, so the irrigation is available all year, and I guess that allows you to grow certain crops, I guess, that you can grow all year. Ve'avadim and avadim. V'chol davar shu ose peiris tadir. And anything that produces fruits constantly, or I guess in the context of a house, that you use it constantly, right? So meaning something that you are right, that is in constant use. Well, then, so then to establish a chazaka, will require continual use for 3 years, right? Chezkasun shalosh shanim miyom yom. To establish a chazaka will require you to kind of take ownership of it for 3 years. 365. I think it might be easier to say 12 months times 3, 36 months. Now, however, Stebes Habal, but a field that relies on rainwater, right, that relies on rain, which means that it doesn't produce crops constantly. It has, one crop per year. It rains, it grows, and then that's it until the next year. Well, in that case, so while the chazaka is still 3 years, but it's not 36 months per se. It's 3 seasons. It's 3 crops, and you can define that different ways. Rabbi Shmuel defines it as Gimel Chadashim B'Rishona v'Gimel B'Achrona v'Shnei Maser B'Emtza. Harei Yud Ches Chodesh. Rabbi Kiva Omer Chodesh B'Rishona v'Chodesh B'Achrona v'Yud Beis Chodesh B'Emtza. Harei Yud Daled Chodesh. So be'etzem. So if you think about like wheat, for example. So let's say year 1. What we're going to count as year 1 is actually 3 months before Rosh. According to Rabbi Shmuel, it's 3 months. According to Rabbi Kiva, it's 1 month. So 3 months before Rosh Hashanah, you already are seeding the field. Normally, I think you would probably plant the seeds, I think like maybe after Sukkot. I don't know. But I'm not a farmer. But in this case, you planted the seeds of like the wheat seeds before Rosh Hashanah. So it was the previous year, right? So that would already count as 1 year, right? Because the point is, a person is not just going to allow you to like seed his, meaning if it was Shimon's field, let's say, it wouldn't allow Reuven to just like, seed his field. So for the fact that Shimon allows him to is already starting to indicate that maybe it actually belongs to Reuven and not to Shimon. And then if Reuven then has it for the next 12 months, and I guess he harvests that field, I guess like Pesach time, the following year. So he has it for the following 12 months. So he had it for 3 months the previous year and he planted seeds. And then he had it for the following 12 months. And then at the end of those 12 months, he waited until after Rosh Hashanah to then plant the next round of seeds, which means, so right. And so again, Shimon's not going to allow him to plant seeds. If it belonged to Shimon wouldn't allow Reuven to plant seeds. So from the fact that Reuven planted seeds at the end of the first year, and then he was in possession of the field the entire second year, and then he planted seeds Nachamol in the third year, so that would already count as your 3 years in this case, in a Stebe Sabal. Right? So the machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva is that you need 3 years on the bookends or 1 year on the bookends, but they both agree that you wouldn't need 36 months. So again, Rabbi Shmuel Omer says, Rabbi Shmuel, Gimel Chadashim B'Rishona, you need 3 months in the first year, Gimel B'Achrona, and 3 months in the final year, V'Shnei Maser Chodesh B'Emtza, and 12 months in the middle. Harei Yud Ches Chodesh, a total of 18 months is enough to establish your chazaka in this case. Rabbi Akiva Omer says, Rabbi Akiva Chodesh B'Rishon v'Chodesh B'Achrona, 1 year, 1 month in the first year, 1 month in the last year, V'Yud Beis Chodesh B'Emtza, and the 12 months in the middle, Yud Daled Chodesh, 14 months, you can already establish a chazaka. Rabbi Shmuel says, Rabbi Shmuel B'Amid V'Amum B'Stei Lavan. When do we say that you need 3 seasons? Well, I guess, the end of the first year, the middle year, and the third year. So that's in a wheat field. But in a tree field, I guess it's a field that you like, that there's like different kinds of trees growing. Let's see. Kanes es kanas es tivuaso, if he harvested the grapes, umasak es zesav, and harvested the olives, kanas es kaitzo, and he gathered his figs, that could already count as 3 years. In this case, it wasn't even 3 years. It sounds like, if I understand correctly, it's basically one season. If he collects from, he's got this field with grapes and olives and I think figs, right? Figs. And he's harvesting the grapes, and then he harvests the olives, and he harvests the figs. And Shimon doesn't say anything while he's harvesting 3 different things. Right? Shimon doesn't say anything while Reuben's harvesting 3 different things. That could already establish a chazaka, says Rabbi Shmuel. Wow, very interesting. But the key thing seems to be 3, right? Whether in the Resha it's 3 years, meaning 36 months, or whether it's 3 years, meaning 3 months, 12 months, 3 months, or 1 month, 12 months, 1 month, or 3 crops, or, whatever it is, we're talking about 3 over here. Alright. Says the Gemara, Amr B'Yechanan, So now the Gemara is going to talk about how do we know this concept? Where do we learn this concept of chazaka from? So I said it's a cliffhanger because we're going to stop in the middle, I guess. But okay, but this is the sugya that we're beginning. Rabbi Yechanan says, Rabbi Yechanan, Shamati meholchei Usha. I heard from those who walked in Usha, and the Gemara is going to explain who that is at the end. But it says Rashi meholchei Usha shegolso Sanhedrin the Usha, that the Sanhedrin was exiled to Usha. Kedamin b'Rosh Hashanah, as we say in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Eser Galios golso Sanhedrin v'chulei miyavne leUsha u'miUsha v'chulei. So Usha was one of the 10 places that the Sanhedrin was exiled to. And it says Rabbi Yechanan that he heard from the walkers in Usha, that they said, Minayin lechazaka sheishalo shanim bara. How do we know that a chazaka, to sort of establish an assumption of ownership, is 3 years? Mishor hamud. We all learned bava kama, so it comes from a shor hamud. Mashor hamud kim chenogach gimel negichos. Once a shor tam technically gores, or I guess in the context of a shor mud, once you have an ox that gored 3 times, nofak le mechezkas tam, it is no longer a shor tam. V'kom le bechezkas mud, and the chazaka is now that it's a shor hamud, ochinami. So oichit by chazaka by like a house, came into ochla plus shnin, or by a field. Once you're eating it or using it for 3 years, well then, nafak la merishus mocher, it's no longer in Shimon, the seller's rishus, v'kaima la rishus lokeach, it's now in Ruvain, the buyer's rishus. The assumption is that it belongs to Ruvain. So just like 3 gorings removes the status of a shor tam from an ox and now puts it in the status of a shor mud, so also 3 years removes the status of it being Shimon's to the status and the assumption of it now being Reuven's. But frek the Gemara, Ima Shor Amud, the Gemara asks an interesting kasha. Ad Negicha Revi'is Lo Michayev. So the Gemara points out, well, maybe you could argue, technically speaking, a Shor Amud. I mean, what's the big difference between a Shor Tam and a Shor Mud? Well, Shor Tam pays Chatzi Nezek, Shor Mud pays Nezek Shalim. Technically speaking, though, the Shor Mud doesn't, after the 3, okay, Shor Tam gores 3 times, so we say it's no longer a Shor Tam, it's now a Shor Mud. You don't then automatically, after the 3rd goring, pay Nezek Shalim. Only when it gores a 4th time, at that point, he pays Nezek Shalim. So, technically, it doesn't really, in effect, become a Shor Mud until after the 4th time it gores. So, to that argument, Hachanami, let's say over here by Chazaka, Ad Shana Revi'is Lo Yikaima Birshuseh. So let's say, therefore, that a Chazaka should only be at the end of the 4th year. Just like by a Shor Mud, you can argue that you're only chayav, the fact of the matter is you're only chayav Nezek Shalim after the 4th goring, so I can argue that it really becomes a Shor Mud only after it gores 4 times. And for the Gemara, Achi Ashta Osam, look, when it comes to Shor Mud, Michinogach Shalish Negichis Have Mud. Look, when it comes to Shor Mud, once it gores 3 times, it's no longer a short time. It's graduated from being a short time. It is now in the category of being a Shor Mud. If you idach, and the fact that you have to wait until the 4th goring in order to be Chayiv Nezek Shalim, Kilo Nogach Ma'ale Shalim. What do you want me to tell you? If it hasn't court, so there's nothing to pay. But it is be'etzim categorized already as a Shor Mud, and therefore here also, once Reuven has been in on the property for 3 years, it has graduated from the chazaka of being Shimon's, and it is now the chazaka of being Reuven's. Hacha came to Achla Tlas Shnei Kaimala Birshusei. Actually, I like it. There's a different girsa actually. It says Kama. I think I like that better actually. So Hacha here also came into Achla Tlas Shnei. Once Reuven has been on the property for 3 years, Kama La Birshusei, it becomes now Reuven's. So, and for the Gemara, Elemi Ato Chazaka Shen Ima Tainat Ave Chazaka. Ha ha. Alama Tanan Kol Chazaka Shen Ima Tainat Eina Chazaka. Look at Rashi. Last of the wide lines of Rashi. Tavi chazaka do omar shalosh shonim mafkile mishuz mocher. Right. So that's why I like the instead of kaima but kama. That meaning. So we just said that after 3 years it becomes Reuven's now. Reuven's been on the field now for 3 years. It becomes his. But if it becomes his, then we should say chazaka sheni matayna havi chazaka. What does that mean? Well, what's a chazaka sheyeshi matayna? Chazaka sheyeshi matayna would be, Shimon says, hey, Reuven, get off my field. What are you doing there? You're a thief. And Reuven says, thief? Who are you calling a thief? I bought this field. I bought it from you. So Shimon says you stole it. Reuven says I bought it. Who do we believe? Do we believe Shimon's? Do we believe, I don't know. Shimon says he stole it. Reuven says he bought it. His word against, one word against the other. But there's another thing that we could pull out here to bring support, which is Reuven has been on this field for the past 3 years. So comes the chazaka to sort of strengthen Reuven's claim. Shimon says that Reuven's a Goslin. Reuven says that he bought the field. Who do we know who to trust? Well, if Reuven has a chazaka, the chazaka comes to support his claim. To say, you know what? Do we believe Shimon? Do we believe Reuven? Well, Reuven has the chazaka, we believe him. So that's chazaka sheyeshi matayna, right? That Reuven makes an argument. It's I bought this field. And then we have chazaka sheyeshi matayna. So we have a chazaka together with Reuven's argument that he bought it. Right? We also have this chazaka that he's been on it for 3 years, so we could then believe Reuven. But if Reuven doesn't make a claim, if Shimon says, hey Reuven, what are you doing on my field? And Reuven's like, I've been here for 3 years. Doesn't make a claim, doesn't say I bought it from you. I've been here for 3 years. Well, the fact that he's been here for 3 years doesn't matter. Right? Chazaka works when it's to back up a claim of ownership. In that case, Reuven says, I've been here for 3 years. He's not saying I bought it from you. He's saying I've been here for 3 years. Well, that chazaka without anything to sort of, for it to support is not a chazaka. So, but the Gemara's kasha though is that if what we said on the previous line, which is kem da'achlet shnei kama lo b'shusei, it becomes his. Well, if we're saying that once Reuven's been on the property for 3 years, it's his. It becomes his. Why do I need a taina? It's his. So again, Elameata, if Memele after 3 years of eating it, it becomes Reuven's, well then it's Reuven's. So Me'ata chazaka she'eni matayna tavi chazaka. So I should say that a chazaka, even without a claim, should belong to Reuven already, because it sounds like the mere fact that he's been on the field for 3 years makes it his. So but why do we learn in the Mishnah then? Kol chazaka she'eni matayna, that when you have a chazaka without a claim, ain't a chazaka. It's not a chazaka. It doesn't work. So, and for the Gemara says the Gemara, look, this is how chazaka works. How come this chazaka works? Because we say Dilma Kidduka Omar. Well, because the way that a chazaka works is because we don't know. Right? Shimon says that the field was stolen from him. Reuven says that he bought the field. We don't know. Right? It says Dilma Kidduka Omar. Maybe Reuven's telling the truth. We don't know. One of them is telling the truth. One of them is lying. So we say, well, maybe Reuven's telling the truth, and we also have a chazaka to support him. But in the case, iulo toyin, that Reuven's not making any claim. He's just saying, well, I've been here. It's not saying I bought it from you. So on and liton lay, what should we all of a sudden make a taina for him? No. He has to make a taina and then the chazaka works. But if he himself is not going to make a taina, we're not going to make a taina for him to say that it's his when he never himself said that he bought it. Maskefler of Avya, Rav Avira. So Maskefler of Avira asks a kasha elameato. Macho'o shelo befanov lo tehave machoyo. Dumi the sharmud, mashamud befanov ba'inon, afachanami befanov ba'inon. When it comes to sharmud, right? When it comes to an ox that gores 3 times, you have to warn the owner of the ox with witnesses. And the owner of the ox has to be there. The huad bivalav, you have to warn the owner of the ox and in his presence. So if we're learning out chazaka from shoramud, so just like by shoramud, when you warn the owner of the ox It has to be in his presence. So I'll say also that by a chazaka, if Shimon is going to create trouble for Reuven or to contest, to challenge Reuven's ownership within those 3 years, he should have to challenge it in Reuven's presence. Yet we know that he doesn't. Right? Shimon, during the course of those 3 years, can say in front of witnesses, even though Reuven's not there, Shimon can say in front of witnesses, by the way, do you see what's going on with Reuven? Reuven's on my field. It's not his, it's mine. He's a thief. And if Shimon, within the 3 years, in front of witnesses said that Reuven's a thief, that he stole the field, well then Reuven's chazaka won't work. Because what's a chazaka? We haven't said this yet. I think we're going to say it tomorrow. But I think I could say it at this point. I think. Like, even though we haven't said it yet, I think the way to understand it would be to say what I'm about to say, which is, what's the point of a chazaka? The point of a chazaka is that we can't expect somebody to hold on to a document forever. Like, absolutely forever, right? Meaning a person purchased a property 50 years ago. And then all of a sudden, the previous owner comes and says, what are you doing on my property? It's mine. And the owner goes to get the document and it's gone. What, he loses his field after 50 years? Because he lost the document? A person loses a document, he loses any property he's ever bought? So we say, look, for 3 years a person can be expected to hold on to a document and keep it safe. And if within 3 years, the original owner comes, Shimon in our example, Shimon comes and says, hey, this is my field, Reuven needs to provide a document. And if he can't provide a document, he's stuck. He has to preserve for 3 years. But after 3 years, we already say, okay, look, he's been on the property for 3 years. Nobody's given him a hard time for 3 years. At a certain point, we have to say, okay, it belongs to Reuven even if he loses the document. So the reason for the chazaka, so the reason why a chazaka works is because we say, look, eventually Reuven is going to lose the document, and therefore we have to rely upon the fact that he's just been here for so long. But if within 3 years, Shimon is already, making arguments and saying that Reuven's a thief, well, Reuven then clearly within the 3 years, Reuven is aware that trouble is a brewing. And that Shimon is going to give him a hard time, and he knows that he'd better hold on to that document, right? So, meaning in a state, I think what I'm saying is correct. I hope what I'm saying is correct. So therefore, in a standard case where for 3 years everything's been smooth, he purchased the field, nobody's given him a hard time. After 3 years, he might eventually lose it. But if word gets back to him already that, Shimon's causing trouble, well, then he better hold on to that document. And I think the point is that even then after, even if it's after if during the course of the 3 years, Shimon kind of gave him a hard time, then he'd better hold on to the document, I guess, until they can kind of clarify things. So says the Gemara, so Maskif lo Rav Avira, so Rav Avira asks a kasha. So if we are learning out chazaka from Shor Amud, well, by Shor Amud, when the owner of the ox is warned that his ox is acting out and goring people, so the owner of the ox has to be warned in front, right? He has to be present, right? The victim would have to warn the owner of the ox in his presence, right? He would have to be there. So if that's the case, then I would think that Reuven, who purchased the property, if Shimon's giving him a hard time, Shimon should have to do this in Reuven's presence. So Maskef Rav Avira asks, so if that's the case, if Shimon were to say that Reuven is a thief, but not in front of Reuven was not there, well, that should be a problem. It should have to be in front of Reuven. Dumid Shor Amud, just like by a Shor Amud, Mashor Amud. After all, right, by a Shor Amud, Bifonav Ba'inon, we need the owner of the ox to be warned in his presence. So I would say here also that Shimon would have to accuse Reuven of being a Goslin in Reuven's presence. So says the Gemara, no, not necessarily. The accusation by a chazaka does not have to be in Reuven's presence, because Hasam by Sharmud v'huad b'vailov ksiv. It says by Sharmud that you have to testify against the owner of the ox, and because it's a testimony that ultimately is going to lead to Reuven being chayiv, to the owner of the ox being chayiv to pay, and therefore the owner of the ox needs to have the opportunity to disqualify these witnesses who are testifying against him, or to make them eidim zomim. Over there, it's like a proper court case, and therefore, it has to be in the owner of the ox's presence so that he can be part of the proceedings and undo them if he can. Whereas over here, this isn't about a court case. This is a reminder that, hey, Reuven, don't lose your document. Because again, the whole point of the chazaka is that, well, if a person eventually is going to lose his document, so if he loses his document, at least he's been here for so long. But if there's already reason to hold on to that document and to be particularly careful, then you should hold on to it. And for that, it's not a testimony or anything. If Reuven is aware that he needs to hold on to the document, so he has to hold on to the document. So over here, chavra islay v'chavra dechavra chavra islay. That either I know somebody or I know somebody who knows somebody. If Shimon is already saying in front of witnesses that Reuven is a ganef, word is going to get out. Word is going to get back to Reuven, and that's what's important. Is that Reuven is aware that Shimon is causing trouble, is accusing him of being a thief. Which and we can assume that if Shimon said in front of witnesses. If in front of witnesses Shimon accused Reuven of being a thief, we can assume that word would get back to Reuven, and if that's the case, Reuven should be responsible and hold on to that document. So if that's the case, it's a valid what did we call this? We called it a macha. It's a valid macha, and therefore Reuven should have to take hold on to his document, take care of his document, even if Reuven was not there at the time that Shimon made the macha. Okay. Fine. So therefore, so Reuven doesn't have to be there. Now, Ula Reb Meir. What about according to Reb Meir? There's machlokes in Bava Kama between Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. Does the goring have to be on 3 separate days? What if an ox gores 3 times on one day? So according to Reb Yehuda, he says it has to be 3 gorings on 3 separate days. But Ula Reb Meir, according to Reb Meir, the Amar who says Richek Nigichosov Chayev, that Reb Meir says Kavachomer, that if when the ox gored in a spread out manner on multiple days, he's chayiv. Certainly, if he condensed the goring 3 times in one day, crazy. Kerev negichosov. If he gored, in a more condensed manner, lo kol sheken, certainly he should be considered a dangerous ox. He should be a shormud. So according to Meir, who says that the goring doesn't have to be over the course of 3 days, it could be 3 times in one day. Well, if that's the case, by a chazaka, does it have to be, in fact, spread out over 3 days? So, what if you can eat 3 fruits in one day? For example, right, kagon te'ena. What about, for example, if you have a fig? Apparently, certain figs, you can have, figs that are ripe now in the morning, and certain figs that are not yet ripe in the morning, but later on in the day they'll be ripe. So you can have a scenario where you're like eating 3 harvests, so to speak, of figs all in one day. Maybe that would be a chazaka. So dumi de shor amud, we say no, it has to be similar to shor amud. Mashor amud beidna de isle hanagicha leisa lahanagicha. Just like by shor amud, at the time that it gores this time, it has not yet gored the next time, and these are completely separate incidents. But hacha, over by the figs, granted that maybe some are ripe in the morning and some are ripe later on in the day, but Achanami here also, beidna deisa lahai pera, leisa lahai pera, we need that, in order for it to establish the chazaka, you would have to have that at the time that you harvested this fruit, the other fruit didn't exist yet. But in this case, it existed, it just wasn't ripe yet. So therefore, eating 3 figs that ripen throughout the course of a day would not be enough to establish a chazaka. Achla tlasa peir b'tlasa yome. But what if you ate three fruits in 3 days? Could go in slaf. For example, a caper. Apparently, capers you can have. It can go like within 3 days. It can go from like being invisible to like being ripe. And already the day, so it could be ripe today. But even though it's ripe today, yesterday mamash it was like totally not ripe. So therefore, you can. So what if you eat 3 of these capers over the course of 3 days, and they can be considered like 3 completely separate harvests because like they were like considered totally non-existent the day before. So I have a chazaka. So 3 days should be enough to make a chazaka. Hasan perimia isei umigmar hudika gomer va'azil. No, there by the capers. Okay, maybe maybe it was very very small or whatever, but the fruit was already there. It was just still in the process of maturing, but it wasn't. It's not like it was non-existent the day before. Tlasa per b'tlasa yome. What if you have b'tlasin yome? What if you have 3 harvests in 30 days? Kigon aspasta. So aspasta was apparently some kind of animal feed that you can grow a whole new crop every 30 days, and within those 30 days you can harvest it 3 times, and that's what you would feed the animals. So within 30 days you're harvesting it 3 times. Maybe that should be enough to make a chazaka. So Echi Dami, yeah, but how does that work with the triple harvests per month? You like take a little bit and you feed it to the animal. You let it grow a little bit and you take that and feed it to the animal. So also Mishamiru dikashamit v'achil. So there he's just basically chopping it around, like early, but they're not, 3 separate fruits. They're just like as a little bit is ready, he's taking it and giving it to the animal. As a little more is ready, he's taking it and giving it to the animal. But it's kind of all the same, growth, like crop. But okay, fine. But what about this? This aspasta, you would basically plant it every 30 days, and within those 30 days, you can then harvest it 3 times. But every 30 days, you're uprooting it and planting a brand new plant. So maybe 30 days times 3. So after 3 months, you should already be able to have a chazaka, right? Because again, according to Reb Meir, who says Richek nigichosav chayev kerev nigichosav lo kol shekain. So whereas Reb Yehuda said you have to go, the ox would have to go on 3 separate days. Reb Meir says it could even go 3 times in one day. So therefore, by the chazaka, if we're comparing it to Shor Muad, so the chazaka we say it has to be 3 years, but maybe you could do it in 3 months. So says the Gemara, man hol cheyusha. So at the very beginning of the Gemara, we had said, right, I'm reading from the beginning of the Gemara, Shamati mi hol cheyusha, she'omer minayin lechazaka she'gimel mishor amud. So it's the hol cheyusha who said that we learn out chazaka from Shor Hamud. But who is the hol cheyusha? Rabbi Yishmael. Apparently the hol cheyusha is Rabbi Yishmael. So it's Rabbi Yishmael who says that we learn out chazaka from Shor Hamud. So Rabbi Yishmael, achinami, right? Meaning, our question was, if we learn out chazaka from Shor Hamud, well then maybe chazaka should be able to be condensed to 3 months. So we say, well, Taka, who is the hol cheyusha who learn out chazaka from Shor Hamud, and that we're making the argument that maybe 3 months should be enough? Well, the hol cheyusha is Rabbi Yishmael. And what did Rabbi Yishmael say in our Mishnah? Rabbi Yishmael achinami detnan. Rabbi Yishmael omer bamed var murim b'stei alavan hava b'stei ilon kanas es tvuaso and basag es esav v'chanas es kaitzo arei elu gemoshanim. Rabbi Yishmael Taka said in our Mishnah that if you have a stei ilon, you can harvest the grapes and then the olives and then the figs. You have your chazaka just like that. So yes, it is possible to have a chazaka with less than 3 years. And yeah, you can have aspasta harvested 3 times, and that should be enough, right? Meaning every 3 months should be enough. Because yeah, Rabbi Yishmael would say you don't necessarily need 3 years. You just need 3, unique harvests. Okay, fine. So we say that Rabbi Yishmael can be'etzem learn it out from Shor Hamud. Where am I? L'Rabbanon mai. Rabbi Shmuel, but the rabbis who don't hold, I assume what it's saying is don't hold of this concept of harvest the grapes and then the olives and then the figs, and there's your chazaka. Well, if that's the case, so then where do they learn out? Sure. Where do they learn out chazaka from? Right? Rabbi Shmuel learns out chazaka from Shor Amud, and everything's fine for him. But part of that is that 3 months could be enough to make a chazaka, or even 3 grapes, figs, and olives could be enough to make a chazaka. The rabbis who argue on that, though, where do they learn out chazaka from? That's the cliffhanger. We're going to pick up from here tomorrow. This will we started Chezkas Habatim. It's Geshmak. So the first daf was very Geshmak. Tomorrow's going to be very interesting. I haven't learned tomorrow's daf yet. The first daf with the Rashbam can be very interesting. We're going to have the Rashbam now for the next 5 months. And we talked about chazaka, right? This concept of like 3 years making a chazaka. How exactly does that work, and what scenarios does that work, and where do we learn out chazaka from? So today we explored learning out chazaka from Shor Amud, and tomorrow we will learn out where else we could learn out chazaka from. Peace out.